Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are going to be planting amaryllis bulbs, and that is my only goal for today. We're going to take it easy. No annual clean out, no in-ground bulb planting today, just enjoying this process. And it is a beautiful day. We woke up to a sparkly frost this morning, but as you can see, the sun is out. It's fairly still and it's pretty warm. Like, I was able to shed my vest layer off really quickly once I started to move around. And of course in here right now, it's just perfection. Also, quick update. Happy news on our fountain that we just moved in here yesterday. Water level, still really high. I have not added any extra water, so we got a really good seal at the bottom. Now we get to enjoy this noise. It's beautiful water sound. And just to give you an idea of the temperature in here, and I've had the door open for about the past 2 hours, it's 71 in here. It's just perfect. And we have 30 amaryllis bulbs. I'm not sure I've ever planted that many amaryllis in one fell swoop. And these just arrived yesterday, so I was very excited to get them out here. We've got 5 or 6 different varieties. Let me grab my packing slip and we can pop some pictures up on the screen. 5 varieties. So we have 6 of a variety called Double Delicious, which is a red with a little bit of white, but they're double flowers. They're phenomenal. They're so pretty and so classic. Then we've got 9 Maryland, which are a double white. They're just bright, pure white. And that variety, I always kind of hope that it starts blooming like right around Christmas, of course, but also into the new year. Having some white flowers carry you through into the new year is always so fun. Hey, Russell. Then we've got 6 called Samba, which are a red and white again, but they're very different than the Double Delicious. They're not a double flower, first of all, but they're real fluffy. Like, the edges are really kind of curly, and they just have this really fluffy appearance to them. And they're a classic red with white margins around each one of the petals. So those first 3 varieties I've had experience growing, and I've just loved them. The next 2 I've never grown before. So there's one called Stardust, which is a white, which looks like there's a dusting of red over the top of it. They're a really interesting look, and the edges of the petals look like they have a very thin margin of red around each one of them. And then we have 6 that are called Rosalie, which are a beautiful salmon pink. And while it's not a traditional Christmas color, I'm always drawn to that color, and I think they are so gorgeous. And I plan on, I'm not sure I'm going to put these in Samantha's room, but I don't know, maybe. She does get her own Christmas tree this year. Benjamin's had one. You know, we make paper chains, and we went to the dollar store and got some little cars and hot glued some string to him, and he still has all those ornaments, and he really enjoys, you know, doing up his tree. And since we just moved Samantha into a new room and kind of fixed it up, she's excited to have a Christmas tree as well. So it would kind of match because we're doing kind of ballerina / pink kind of theme. So anyway, this is the goal for today. And let's take a look at what these bulbs are looking like. They all look really good. What's this one? This one's Samba. So there are different sizes. So you have this one says 32 to 34. That typically means they're a little bit of a larger bulb because you can find them in differing sizes and differing price points. If you get a hold of them at the 34 centimeter side of things, you can expect several bloom stalks, like usually 4, maybe even more than that. And then you get 4+ blooms on each stalk, as opposed to like if you find some smaller ones, like I've grown a lot of the 24 centimeter ones in the past, and they're usually a little shorter. You usually get 1 to 2 bloom stalks. So it's just a little bit of a smaller show, but definitely less expensive for those size. It doesn't really matter. They're all so fun to grow and such a fun gift to give because they grow so fast. There's almost, it feels like instant gratification. However, I say they grow fast. Once they start to grow, they grow fast. But it can take several weeks for them to kind of kick into gear and to go for it. So the earlier you plant them, the better. In fact, I probably, had I had these a couple weeks ago, I would have got them in pots like right away, because it can take anywhere from, boy, I think on their website, on Colorblend's website, they say 12 weeks, but it's usually between 5 and 12 weeks, somewhere around in there. I want to say 8 weeks is about an average to get blooms from planting to blooms. So it is something you want to think about early, unless it doesn't matter to you when they bloom. If you want them blooming during Christmas, get them planted earlier. If it doesn't matter and they can bloom in January, if they don't make it in time, then that's great too. But these look like beautiful bulbs. You can get them even bigger than this. Like I think they call them colossals or jumbos. So yeah, they just vary. These look all about the same size, all about the 32 to 34 centimeter size. That's the Maryland right there. And these are really easy to plant because you can definitely tell which side the leaves are going to come out, and you can tell which side the root's going to come out. So we'll plant them like this. And you can plant them a couple different ways. There are specific Amaryllis bulb vases that have kind of, maybe we can pop a picture up on a screen, but they've got kind of a basin at the bottom where you put some stones and water, and then it necks down, and then it comes back out. Like it flares back out just enough for you to nest a bulb down in, and then the roots will go down and reach toward the water. So it's essentially not growing in any soil at all. And I usually like to grow mine in soil though, because eventually you got to move them out of those water rock kind of situations and get them in soil anyway if you want to keep them growing. So it kind of eliminates that step if you just get them in soil right away. What's going on, Russell? What is going on? So what we're going to do today is we are going to start with these little wood bowls. I just picked these up, and we're going to line them with plastic, put a little soil in, and then we'll plant them and top dress with moss. And we're going to do essentially the same thing with our basket here. I love to plant multiples together. So if you can do 3 or 5 in a larger container, it's such a spectacular display. So let's get after these first ones. I think what we'll do, I've got 3 bowls here and I've got 9 Marilyns. So I'm thinking if we do 3 per bowl, per wood bowl, we can put these down our dining room table. So we have 3 vessels full of these gorgeous white blooms. Okay, so I'm gonna need to kind of clear my workspace a little bit. Just need one at a time here. Okay, so we've got our bowl here. You can drill if you want and make them into a draining container, but for Amaryllis, since you can grow them in straight water, so long as the bottom of the bulb doesn't touch water. I should have mentioned that. When you've got these in the proper Amaryllis bulb vases, it keeps the bulb sitting up out of the water. So in this case where we're putting it in a non-draining container, we just won't have to water them very much. In fact, I've got, I've got one of them in here. We just brought not all of my Amaryllis, but some of them in here because we had a mealybug infestation, which everything's looking really good. But see this one right here, this is a non-draining container, and the Amaryllis are doing just fine. I just cut all their growth back so they don't look like they're fine, but they are. Nice firm bulbs. I just am very sparing when I water it. And honestly, when you've got them in an inside situation and I'm gonna put them on my dining table that I saved a long time to buy, I wanna protect that dining table and I don't wanna have to mess around with saucers or all that business. Okay, so we are gonna line this thing with a garbage sack. Like that, and then we're gonna add some soil. Kind of helps weigh it down before we cut the edge here. We'll cut our bag, leave a little bit of a lip. Okay, so we've got it lined. We've got a little bit of soil in here. You don't need a lot of soil. 1, 2, oh, look at the roots on that one. Oh my goodness. These are ready to roll. Okay, I'll bring you in close for this part. We're gonna nest them into the soil. Now, when we do this, we're gonna just put soil up about this far. We're gonna have the bulb sticking up out of it because we wanna make sure not to get any soil or water down the neck of the bulb because that can cause it to rot. Basically, the soil is there just to help anchor the bulb. So we don't need a tremendous amount. I mean, I shoot for like maybe halfway up the bulb. Okay, so we're gonna do a little trio in here. Making sure to tuck all the roots down underneath the soil. Second one going in. And I'm using my fingers to really pack that soil in. I really want them to be tough. I would love to not have to stake these. Oftentimes though, when you get the big size Amaryllis bulbs, the stalks are so tall, you end up having to put some kind of staking situation in there, but I'm gonna try not to this year. Okay, now our third one. So those are done, planted. So now we just need to make it look pretty. So what you can do is you can just flip this plastic over the top. You know what? No, we're not going to flip it yet. I'm going to trim a little bit more off. It's a little too much. Well, the problem is that if you do this and there's too much of a lip, it's really hard to get water in there unless you go right in the center, which is fine. But I kind of want to be able to put water toward the exterior too. Ideally, you have a pair of scissors that are better than mine. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now we're gonna top dress with some mood moss. I love this stuff. It's just preserved and it keeps its color beautifully. I usually kind of crunch it up just a little bit. And while we do that, we kind of tuck the little edges underneath, the little plastic edges underneath the moss, kind of like that. Sometimes if you get it wet, the moss, it's a little easier to mold. Maybe we'll do that going forward. I didn't make sure that my bulbs were facing straight up. There we go. Now, if you want to get extra fancy with it, you can pop some pine cones in here. I just rinsed these off because they were been sitting in the barn in a crate. These are from our spruce trees. I think they add a little extra natural element that I like. Now we're just watering them in lightly to make sure everything's settled in there. Isn't that pretty? So these will grow up, create those big, beautiful, strappy, dark green leaves. And then if we need to come in and add some stakes, we can. And what I typically like to do is pop branches in from out in the garden. And I just kind of create a network of branches that look really pretty. And that usually helps hold everything up. In fact, maybe we can pop some footage up on the screen. Like last year, I potted up some Amaryllis white ones in a blue and white sort of spode looking container, and then I went and got some yellow twig dogwood and just popped those all over around the bulbs, and those have a lot of branches coming off of a single branch, so it created kind of a grid and a network of branches that kept everything nice and tidy. And there have been other years where I'll create like little domes over the top of them with branches. You just stick a branch in one side and twist it over to the other side and pop it in the soil, and you do that several times around and tie it at the top, and it just creates a nice little grid for them to grow through. But I kind of don't want to do that this time around unless I have to. So one down. Let's finish the other two that are going to be identical to this, and then we'll move on to the next variety. You love that, Russell. I knew you would love it. Look at how beautiful these are. These are gonna be gorgeous on our dining table. And I've got a runner. It's like a dark green, dark blue kind of plaid runner. And I'll probably put some green boughs, some boughs between and kind of work those around, and then some little candles. And then our bright white blooms. Oh, it's gonna be gorgeous. I'll have to wipe the bowls down when I get them inside. In fact, I plan on leaving them in here for just a little while until I start taking fall decorations down, because I've got like a row of pumpkins down the table right now. So these can just hang out in here and do their thing and start to grow. One of them has a bloom, like a bud right here. So this one will just take off really quick. You can also use stones as a top dress too. That works really nicely. You can pretty much use anything as a top dress, whatever you like. Okay, so I think the next one, we're gonna line this basket, do the same kind of thing, and put the Samba variety in here. I think this one needs some branches. Perfect. Isn't that perfect? So now that those are in, these are dogwood branches, so they might even root in once we start, watering it. The amaryllis can shoot up its leaves and its bloom stalks, and they'll just kind of rest themselves on these branches. Love it. All right, 2 varieties done. We've got 3 to go. I need to go gather up some more pots before we start in on the next batch. That's pretty. I want to run out to the red barn, see what we've got out there. We grew like 6 of them in this bowl. Wouldn't that be pretty? We should try it. That would be interesting for sure. If amaryllis can grow in a wax covering, they can grow in a really shallow bowl. And wax covered amaryllis has become kind of a thing. I don't know if you've seen them. They're actually quite nice, and they make for a beautiful gift. And you can pick the wax off of them after you've grown them for the season and then use them or pot them and use them again the next season, let them grow. Or you can just treat them as an annual. That's totally fine as well. Wondering about this. That's a beauty. Okay, so we've got 6 of each variety of bulb left. So if I do 6 in this, that takes care of 1 variety, 3 and 3. I'll probably grab 1 more of these. Oh, look at that cone. That's pretty. 1 variety I'll split between these 2. 1 variety, and then we need 1 more pot. Okay, and we're gonna need to grab some soil as well. That'll do. We are going in with Double Delicious, all 6 of them in this container. This one will go on the island. Okay, we're gonna do samba in the pear pots that look like this. Oh, like a glove. This one has a larger drain hole, so I'm actually going to use one of these bags to line the bottom. Water can still escape, but it'll keep soil from going through. Okay, Rosalie in this one. Oof. Long roots. Kind of assembly line styled that last planting. I didn't put any moss on the top, so we're going to do that now on all of them. Shout out to Paul. He just ran down to the garden center to pick up more of this preserved moss right here because I ran out. Let me show you this. I actually have some preserved sheet moss as well. Show you the difference. Look at that. They come out in these huge chunks. Now the last brand I was just using on those over there was like Bella, I think, and this is Super Moss brand. This one I notice is bigger chunks and they're a little bit more on the chartreuse side. And then the moss I used on the one we put the branches in, it's way more emerald. I don't prefer this one. I think it's called forest moss. It's okay in there though. And then this right here is probably the most versatile. This is preserved sheet moss. Let's take a look. It's the most versatile because it's not quite as big as this stuff right here. But I think this big stuff, especially in the container that I put 6 in that's real shallow, it's gonna help hold them. Okay, so preserved sheet moss is more flat. It's got a really nice color and it's been dyed to be this color. It's not this color on its own. If it wasn't dyed, it would just be brown. So it keeps it nice and pretty. It fades over time, but it takes a long time for it to fade. But I get the question from time to time, like if you need to mist your moss, not this stuff. Still gonna get it wet though. Okay, so we can kind of ease this apart and then put it between. got them all done and I am so excited about it. Oh, we're gonna have a pretty house this winter. Starting off with the containers on the table. These are from Athens. They're part of the order that I put in this summer when I got all those pot feet and saucers. And these will have to go on saucers, as well as this one right here. This one has a plug in it, so we won't have to worry about that one. And let's see, the only other one, the shallow bowl, we'll have to put some sort of saucer underneath it. But you can see the difference in the moss here. So this is the mood moss. Sometimes it's called pool moss, but the big chunky stuff, versus the look of the preserved sheet moss, which you can get a little bit of, lumpiness, I guess, out of this one as well. You can see I kind of did that. But it's a lot more of a uniform look, while this one has a lot more natural elements, like there's a little grass right in here, things like that. But we've got Rosalie, the salmon pink one, in these two right here. And then we've got Samba in these two, which, I think maybe we'll put these on the bookcases that go up into our landing, like on either side. That would be really pretty. I'm not sure yet, but maybe. And then over here, you can definitely see a difference in the moss color. So this is that forest moss that I don't care for as much, and I might swap it. I might pull it out. It just looks too artificial to me versus something like this. But anyway, I mean, once the amaryllis are blooming, you probably won't even really notice. I've got the Stardust in the basket, and then we've got the Double Delicious, all 6 of them in there. They fit beautifully. And having this big chunky moss, it is really nice. The bulbs feel really solid in here, especially once the moss kind of dries in place here. That'll provide even more structure. And I love the little spruce cones tucked in here and there. And then our 3 Maryland right here, each with 3 bulbs in it. Boy, it made such a difference putting in wet moss versus dry. My goodness. So at this point, in terms of water, you don't have to do much until you start to see some activity. So we watered them in today, and then we'll water them very lightly until we start seeing some leaves push. Once that happens, it's like once or twice a week watering, depending on where I have them. So you have to kind of be mindful of that. They're not a super duper heavy water user, but we heat a lot with our wood stove, and that provides, or produces, I guess, a lot of dry heat. So if I've got them closer to that, they tend to dry out a little bit quicker, and they'll also dry it quicker if they're near an air register or vent, something like that. So just keep that in mind. And they like bright light. They don't need to be in direct sun. They just want a bright spot, and they do real well. And they like just inside temperatures. So in here right now, let's see if it's heated up anymore since when we started. It was what, 70, 71, something like that? Yeah, it's 84 in here now. Definitely warmed up. What a beautiful day. But like I said, I'm going to be keeping these out here for a little while, and I'll show you when I place at least some of these inside once they start to put on some growth, and once I've got our surfaces cleared off inside. I just saw a chicken running. But taking it slow today, it was a needed day just to relax and take my time and work through all of these bulbs. And like I said, I don't think I've ever planted 30 before. So this is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait. And what are we? First part of November. So we'll probably have blooms on most of these, if not all of them, by Christmas time. That's 8 weeks from now. We'll be really close. And you guys, that is going to do it for our project today. I'm done working outside today. I'm just going to take the rest of the day to go play with the kids. I do think that Aaron popped a camera up though while he was mowing up more leaves today. So if he did, we will put the footage up right at the end here, and I hope you enjoy that. It's always fun to see something get cleaned up so quickly. It's just instant gratification. I love that. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If you haven't ever grown an amaryllis, or if you don't have yours potted up yet, let this be your reminder. Go get one and pot it up, because it's so much fun to watch them grow. And we will link color blends down below where all of these came from, so you can check them out. There's other varieties that they have as well, and it's definitely not too late to order them. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.